Okay, so I just want to really quickly introduce the research program that's going to be run out of Murdoch University. So what we've got here, I'm going to introduce you to 4 separate work packages, 2 of which are funded by WARC and 2 of which we're sort of running internally. But I wanted to mention them because they integrate across all the themes that the program was aimed to meet. So the first one, which is probably the one that is going to take up the most of our time, and actually I'm going to introduce Duccio. Can you stand up for a minute? So Duccio is going to work on this project. We're just sorting out his contract at Murdoch University. He's the one that's going to be contacting stakeholders to get your help and support. And so I just want you to see that he's here, and we're getting ready to... We're going to be working predominantly on the fungus. So as we did hear right at the very beginning, this is actually a forest pathology issue in the end because it's the fungus that kills the tree. So it's something about the interaction of the fungus with the tree that leads to death. And forest pathology, of which there are many in the room, we always go on that the concept of disease is about having the right environment, the right pathogen and a susceptible host, and then the time that it takes for that disease to form. The thing that always gets complicated when you have a vector, like the borer, is what that actually means in the interaction with the fungus getting into the host. So what we have here is something about the rate of the tree's ability to respond as a function of population density. So how well can the tree respond when it's getting multiple infections by a host? Because the fusarium isn't known as a very strong pathogen, but there is something about the number of bites that it's getting or the number of insertions that it's getting and its ability to respond. And so there's like, what can we do to make the tree more able to respond so that even if there are beetles around, it doesn't lead to the death of the tree. So this is going to be one of our biggest projects. We're going to do a whole lot of testing of different hosts for their reaction to the fungus. And this will help us prove another thing, which is a whole plant pathology thing, which is Koch's postulate, which is to show that the organism that you think is causing the death actually is causing the death. So this will put to bed a lot of bits of information and really help with modelling and knowing which of the tree species that are really important. And this is where we're going to be working with all the stakeholders across all the industries to test material from theirs. And then there'll be a second phase which will be playing with some of the major hosts, playing with the impact of water and fertiliser and heat on the disease development. So most of the work we'll do will be in the absence of the beetle. The second one we're doing is Wei. Where are you here? Wei Zhu? Wei, stand up. So Wei is at Murdoch. He's working with Gavin in the chemical ecology at UWA. Wei and his PhD student Shadul are going to be testing some of these different attractants and repellents, and they're already in discussion with lots of people about this and already have things underway. The third one is another one that, oh no, sorry, I just did that back to front. Sorry. The second one, I didn't look at my slide. The second one is predominantly around natural ecosystems. At Murdoch, we have one of the threatened ecological communities, which is Melaleuca Swamp. It's very much a natural ecosystem. We're very concerned about the impact in the swamp and it's a horrible thing to call it, the swamp. And what the long-term consequence for that ecological community is, and it's not just there, but on all the associated DBC lands down through the wetlands. And we are going to be going to trial a whole bunch of different potential control strategies which can be used within a natural ecosystem, because many of the things that are available for use elsewhere won't be applicable within a natural ecosystem. So that's something that we're going to do on campus, and we're going to get started on that really soon, but we haven't got any results there. Then Wei, sorry. No, this was the one where Wei is going to be working on attractants and lures with UWA. And then the fourth one is remote sensing. This one has been funded under the WARP program. This is with Arbor Carbon. Paul is going to do a whole introduction on that now, so I'm just going to slip through it. And I just want to show you how we were addressing the WARP themes. So theme one was the host pathogen environment, and our first work package on the fungal biology addresses that. The theme two and the control strategies, those two work packages that we're funding internally, are going to help deliver some of the knowledge towards that. And theme three, which Paul is about to talk about now, will improve the detection and surveillance. All the information that we get will feed into model development. So we're going to be doing a lot on the pathogen and feeding it to Ben and anyone else who wants the information. And I guess I just want to talk about the project as a whole and how it was developed and put together. From day one, it was a collaborative endeavour, and I think as a team we plan to continue that all the way through, and there will be a whole lot of engagement which we plan to do together rather than... So we're hoping that you don't all get multiple approaches. We're going to try to work together as a team to make sure that this is as seamless as possible and that it's very clear that we're presenting a one approach to all of you. And there's going to be a whole lot of outcomes that are going to help with the management and hopefully keeping the population down. And I'd just like to thank WARC and the project partners and all the community stakeholders that have already engaged in the process of developing this so far. And yeah, we look forward in 6 months and 12 months' time to be able to deliver you some really interesting results. And I'm going to hand over directly to Paul, who's got many more pretty pictures than I have.
Excellent. Thanks, Treena. It's great to be here. So I'm here to talk about remote sensing and AI to contain polyphagous shot hole borer. Basically, we've got a camera system we've designed for the aircraft called ArborCam. It's an 11-band camera system designed for measuring vegetation. We can vary the altitude and the resolution of the data we collect, so anywhere from about 1.5 centimetres upwards. And we can see things in vegetation that you can't see with the naked eye. So a good example is that image over there of the SCG. The left-hand side is a true colour image. The right-hand side is a vegetation condition index, which is basically an index out of our camera system that detects stress in vegetation. So we'll be using that. Most of our work's done over east. There's 15 of us, most based here in Perth, but most of our work's done over east, and we'll be using the learnings from that work over east to bring that back to WA. One of the approaches is to delineate tree crowns, and that's what we'll be doing. So we've been doing this for a bunch of local governments and state governments over east and here as well. So we basically fly over the local government, we process our data, through a range of methods. We can delineate the tree crowns. From that, we can benchmark the condition, and we can do things like detect species as well. So I'll talk a little bit about this. We've had some projects, so like I said, most of our work's over east. Our biggest client is the New South Wales government, so we basically do the airborne canopy mapping for all the 33 Sydney councils. We do that every 2 years. The ACT government, we fly their urban forest as well. And one of the projects we did for them was around measuring condition of trees from our camera system. And part of that was to identify species in their urban forest, which is key to this project. So we, through a deep learning approach using some of their audit data, we then identified the top 17 species, which was over 500,000 trees to their urban forest, delineated each tree crown, and then benchmark the condition of every tree. Now that's the way to do it in this approach with this project. So we're bringing those learnings to this project to identify host species, benchmark the health, and we can monitor things like treatments and the success of treatments going forward. So we're very excited about that. Fortunately, we've also been working with a bunch of local governments here, and some of those are partners and some are in the room today, which is great. And projects like this, where we've already, the last 3 or 4 years, flown over strips of trees to monitor the potential impact of polyphagous, delineated tree crowns. I mean, this is 1.5 centimetre pixels from the aircraft, so it's not drone level imagery, it's low altitude aircraft imagery. We fly that every year, and from that we benchmark the condition of every tree, and then we monitor the change in condition over time, which is very important. So again, bringing those learnings to scale across some pretty large areas of the Perth urban forest, starting hopefully this late spring of this year, and having repeat measures. We've been engaged by a range of groups. AFBA engaged us on this work in Adelaide. So the response to things like giant pine scale, so these are biosecurity threats. So when something like polyphagous or a pest like that comes into an urban forest, there's a boots on the ground approach that we can adopt. There's a range of technologies we can utilise. In this case here, 20,000 hectares, we can fly over, identify where all the pine trees are, and then do some spread risk modelling. So again, in this project, in this research with polyphagous, we'll be working with Ben and his team to identify particular host species, then look at where polyphagous is, and then look at where it could spread to and where we should look first to then assess whether it's present, whether we should treat trees, and how we can monitor the success of those treatments over time. So that's one of the approaches we'll be working with Murdoch on. And again, this is a strip of trees, change detection, which will be very important in this project. The change in the condition of trees over time, even at the sub-tree level. So on the right-hand side there, what you see is annual change in the health based on that index in our camera system. Blue is increasing condition, white is stable, and red is loss. So if there's a red pixel in there, we know there's been stress or loss of vegetation due to some reason. So we'll be looking at, is that due to polyphagous in this project, which is quite exciting. And that project with this small project with the City of Melville won the best use of technology with the PLA National Award last year. And Melville led that. They were very forward thinking in that. So a very exciting piece of work that they drove. Finally, it's no good producing data unless people engage in it. It's really, really important that if you produce that, people need to be able to use that. So in that, we've got a web-based platform that the New South Wales government, lots of local governments around the country already subscribe to. We'll be customising that to enable stakeholders to engage in that data as part of this project. So looking forward to that. Thanks very much.